John, God,
Get out
to the Republic Broadcasting Network. Because you can handle the truth.
What really happened with your host, Mike Rivero, because World War III is a really bad idea. Here is your host, Michael Rivero.
And aloha, America. Welcome to our show here. It is Friday, May 29th, 2020. Thank goodness it's Friday. Thank goodness it's Friday. Thank goodness it's Friday. We have a lot to talk about today here. The Lady Claire will be joining us in hour number 2. And the usual Friday phone rules apply, which is I'm going to do news for half an hour, then we'll open the lines. Then Claire will do her news for half an hour, and we'll open the phone lines here and get your phone calls in here. I have a small announcement to make. Which I'll repeat in hour number 2. As we discovered yesterday, there are people who are only tuning in for the phone calls here. I'm taking a small vacation, 2 weeks from the radio show and the website. I've got some other things I need to get done, like working on the new website, and I need some focus time to really work on that. So starting next Monday, this show is going to be guest hosted by people like Steve Elkins and David Grant, and we've invited Ryan Dawson to sit in as well, but have not heard back from him just yet. So it won't be nothing but constant replays. Just, please tune in and check out the show when it's running the next 2 weeks. That's going to be 2 weeks returning. I'll be returning to the air on June 15th, halfway through the month here. And I know it seems like a really bad time to be taking off. What with COVID-19, the launch of the Dragon tomorrow, the riots taking place all across America because of that ridiculous murder by this police officer. But there never really is a good time to step away, is there? I mean, it's not like the deep state calls me up and says, Mike, we're going to cool things down for 2 weeks. Why don't you get a rest? So anyway, 2 weeks. I'll be back. Now, speaking of Minneapolis here, about 2 hours ago, Officer Derek Chauvin, the officer who was caught on videotape with his knee on the neck of George Floyd, has been arrested, taken into custody. The charges are third-degree murder and manslaughter. No other details available at this time. And frankly, they've handled this whole thing horribly, because yesterday they had that press conference where you had all these prosecutors saying, well, we're not really sure we see criminal intent here. Okay, which is not how the law reads. And that sent out a message saying that they were going to cover for the cop. They were going to let him go. And then today they changed their mind and they arrested Officer Chauvin, and who, by the way, has a past history of violent, brutal behavior. He's been disciplined twice by the police department. And that sent out a message saying that if you riot enough, you'll get what you want. And so it is an explosive situation. They've handled it very, very badly, because you still have that camp of people out there who are of the opinion that the police are always right no matter what, that they have a right to, commit acts of brutality and violence if they feel it's justified and so forth. And they want the cops to go no matter how guilty they are of anything they may have done. Now, just so that you understand, the police do not have a right to employ violence that is not enjoyed by the citizens as well. There was a Supreme Court case called John Bad Elk versus United States, which established that when the police are operating outside the letter of the law, which was clearly what was going on in this case, okay, ordinary U.S. citizens have a right to reply with force up to and including deadly force, which is why they want to take our guns away. So he's been arrested. He's in custody. They're not saying where, but my guess is they're not going to put him in the general prison population, because the only people who have it any worse in the general prison population than police officers who've been disgraced are the child molesters. There's a social ladder in prison, with the spectacular crimes at the very top, and then down in the middle, you've got espionage and stuff like that. And then down at the very bottom, you have the child molesters. They are basically viewed on as, refuse, even by prison standards here. The U.S. government is now flying an Reaper drone from the U.S. Customs and Border Protection Service, and they're flying this Reaper drone over Minneapolis, taking a look at the riots down below. Now, my understanding is it is a surveillance drone. It is unarmed. It will not be firing from the sky, but I would be very surprised if that did not return to ground with a few bullet holes in it. Twitter has done it again. We're going to be talking about that a little bit more further in the show here. But apparently, Donald Trump put out a tweet echoing a statement from the Miami governor from back in, I think it was 1967, saying that when the looting starts, the shooting starts. And Twitter flagged it for inciting violence, which is exactly the opposite of what he was trying to do. Trump has now had the official White House Twitter account repeat it to dare Twitter to act. And there is a real danger here in terms of the fact that quite clearly the CEO of Twitter has let his position go to his head. I mean, he's up against the president of the United States of America. He's clearly making moves that people say are in error. You know, Trump was not glorifying or inciting violence. He was saying don't. Anyway, we got a confirmation regarding the past of George Floyd. Yes, he did have some legal troubles out in Texas. And when he got out, he determined he was going to turn over a new leaf in his life. And that's when he moved to Minnesota to basically start his life over again. And as we mentioned yesterday, he's been involved in programs to urge inner city youth to abandon gun violence and just try and, you know, get back home and work for their community. So they're saying at this point, none of the officers could have been aware of Floyd's criminal history at the time of the arrest, because apparently within Minneapolis, he's led a clean life to the point where he got a permit to act as a bouncer at a local nightclub where one of the other police officers worked security in the parking lot. Now, this is a problem that we saw out in the Rodney King riots and a lot of other places. Apparently, many of the looters and rioters are not from the city. And I learned that one because I was living in an apartment building in North Hollywood. The rioting was taking place in South Central. And our neighbors came home carrying a big, huge liquor store box full of these little tiny vodka bottles. And I said, boy, somebody's going to have a little bit of a party. And they go, yeah. So anyway, people are just taking advantage. Hey, there's a riot. Hop in the car. We're going to go on down and get a new 4K TV. Now, there was an interview by one of the rioters saying there's nothing left here inside Minneapolis. It's all been burned down or emptied out. And then he went on to say, we're coming for the suburbs next. Just trying to press the fear here. This is feeling more and more staged as time goes along. It really, really does. Now, we did confirm that at one point in the past, about 100 Minnesota law enforcement officials attended training in Minneapolis given by the Israeli consulate in Chicago. And they said it was all about sharing techniques to prevent terrorist acts such as suicide bombings. Well, I did a little more research and discovered that this idea of knee on the neck, knee in the back is designed to prevent somebody from detonating an explosive vest. So here we go. So the only question is, did these particular officers, Chauvin, come on in and take that training as well? Because that is a tactic the Israelis use on the Palestinians. So as I mentioned before, back in the 1960s, there was a Miami police chief, not the mayor, and he was known for violent reprisals on black protesters in the 1960s. And it all began in 1968 when the Republicans were in town for the Republican National Convention, which looks like could happen again because of all the game playing going on with that one here. And Police Chief Headley noted at the time, we don't mind being accused of police brutality. They haven't seen anything yet. Well, that's tough talk there. All righty. Now, there's a video that was put out and I've linked it to the front page of whatreallyhappened.com. There was this suspicious man dressed all in black with a facial protector, the one with the big filters that you add on there, not a cloth mask for COVID, but like a proper painter's filter and face cover. And he was carrying a black umbrella, even though it was not raining. And he just walks along the sidewalk with this little club in his hand, breaking windows. And then he just walks away. And the police don't chase him. He doesn't even run, until he's chased by some of the civilians there. So this is very suspicious behavior. He's not looking like he's expecting to get in trouble for an act of vandalism there. All right, well, we're going to put this subject on hold because Claire wants to talk about this in hour number 2. Getting on to some of our internal political news. Attorney General William Barr has assigned the U.S. Attorney for the Western District of Texas, John Bash, to review episodes of unmasking by the Obama administration before and after the 2016 presidential election. So Obamagate is being investigated. And technically, they could still impeach him. He's already out of office, but they could impeach him just so it goes on his historical record. All right. Let's talk a little bit about coronavirus. By the way, have you noticed how coronavirus has sort of very quickly faded away in the face of these riots in Minneapolis? So 41 million people have lost their jobs since COVID-19 hit, but the rate of layoffs is slowing. And analysts are saying we may be seeing the bottom where it's going to just, flatten out and we can start recovering our economy. Roughly 2.1 million people applied for U.S. unemployment benefits last week. Companies are still slashing jobs in the face of a deep recession, even as more businesses reopen and rehire laid-off employees. The national jobless rate was 14.7 in April, the highest since the Great Depression. Well, we know that those numbers are fudged to begin with. For them to be admitting it was 14.7, it had to be really, really bad. India is backing the use of hydroxychloroquine for coronavirus prevention. And there has been a big stink over the so-called research that showed hydroxychloroquine was dangerous. And they've had to retract that study because apparently a large part of the raw data that was put into this report, they can't verify where it came from. It just seems to have just popped into existence somewhere. They said, oh, those numbers look bad. Hydroxychloroquine, oh, bad stuff. They've been using this stuff to treat malaria for years. And there's never been a problem with it before. They're out there letting people die and mucking about with people's health to get market share for a coming wonder drug that can be patented. Okay. Well, let's talk about what's going on with Twitter and social media and even the corporate media. Apparently, CBS News cut 75 staffers in a single day. That happened on Wednesday. So let's get back on over to Twitter. Twitter, their CEO has made a huge mistake. Trump is not going to back down. He's not the backing down kind of person. And apparently neither is this CEO. So we've got these two bullheaded individuals going after each other. And this one today where they flagged Trump for inciting and glorifying violence, which is not what he did. And anybody looking at his original tweet can see that. He was out there saying, stop it now. So Twitter's site integrity chief shows a long history of anti-Republican bias. And we're now, what really makes that Twitter CEO's moves reckless is right now they're looking at changing the law, the 1996 Communications Decency Act, specifically Section 230, which defines social media as a platform. But as so many observers have pointed out, when you engage in so-called fact-checking, you are in fact engaging in censorship, and that moves you into the legal definition of a publishing platform because you're editorializing. And if they're a publishing platform, then the First Amendment applies and they can be sued in court. So now's not the time to be punching everybody's buttons. There's no question this bill will pass in the Senate. It is arguable it could pass in the House because there are a lot of Democrats who have felt the wrath of social media censorship, not as much as the Republicans, but they felt it anyway. And they may simply say on general principles, we're not a country where public communications are censored, certainly not by private corporations. So you would think Twitter would want to be doing a kiss and make up right about now, but nope, more salt in the wound. And behind it all, of course, Twitter has failed to answer the primary question: could fraud swing a presidential election? And the answer to that, of course, is yes. It's happened before. Happened with Richard Nixon's re-election. Happened with John F. Kennedy's election. It's a fact of history. Elections are fraudulent because we don't have a reliable, dependable, auditable, verifiable election system. Our election system is a joke in the eyes of much of the world. And Trump is right about the mail-in ballots being susceptible to fraud. I remember when there was this press conference with Kayleigh, the new press spokesperson, and she is really sharp, by the way. And the reporter from CNN was out there clearly in attack mode. And Kayleigh asks him, California's governor just signed an executive order mailing a ballot to all registered voters. And don't you think that that is opening up a problem? And the guy says, no, they're registered voters. It's okay for them to get a ballot. And Kayleigh came back and said, in Los Angeles County, there are 115% registrations for the 100% population, meaning there are 15% of the people are registered more than once, if they even exist. Dead people are registered, and you've got these ballots just floating around. They can be stolen from mailboxes. Of course it's open for fraud. That's the whole point. And to sort of hammer home the point, down in West Virginia, a mail carrier has been charged with election fraud for altering absentee ballot applications. There have been cases of volunteers going into like nursing homes to patients who really probably can't even read the ballot any longer and filling it out for them, all Democratic. Anyway, now Mark Zuckerberg started backing away from this social media stuff a while back. He said, we're revising the rules at Facebook. We understand there's a right to freedom of opinion and freedom of speech. And, there are certain things we're not going to allow, but it's stuff that pretty much everybody can agree on, like solicitations for child molestation. But he did an interview on Fox News that aired yesterday. And Zuckerberg says it's not the place of private companies to interfere in what people say online. Now, from this, I have concluded that Zuckerberg knows that when the feces hit the ventilation system on this, it's going to splatter in every direction. And he's out there thinking, how can he insulate Facebook? So he's being smart. He's protecting his company, which as CEO, that's what he's supposed to be doing. I'm not a big fan of Mark Zuckerberg, especially after the Hawaii experience, but I think he's being very, very smart here. Okay, Matt Gaetz, a Republican of Florida, will announce today that he's working with Republican members of the House Judiciary Committee to craft legislation that would strip social media giants of their Section 230 legal immunity if they fact-check content on their platforms, according to a copy of his podcast, Seen by Breitbart News. On the podcast, Hot Takes with Matt Gaetz, he said that he's working on a bill that would prevent social media giants like Facebook, Twitter, and Google from fact-checking content on their platforms. Well, you know something? I think people should do their own fact-checking. You should be your own analyst. And yes, some of you will make mistakes, but statistically, you'll make mistakes in both directions. And that'll sort of even things out. But what happens if you've got one fact checker sitting there on Twitter who makes a mistake? Everybody gets it wrong. We got to take a break for commercials. We'll be back after these few words.
This is too good to be true, except this time it is real. 100%. No joke. How about a $25,000 membership to Front Sight Firearms Training Facility as a thank you bonus for a one-time donation to RBN of only $500? It is a Commander lifetime membership with no yearly fees or dues. The training is free for the rest of your life with over 50 different classes. Then leave it to your designated beneficiary. You provide the approved firearm, holster, ammo, eye, and ear protection. Many features and bonuses are included, more than you would ever expect or believe. This is the ultimate graduation present, wedding gift, etc., etc. See the details. Go to RBN's webpage and frontsight.com to make it happen. You will hear this offer only on this radio network. Help keep RBN alive. Tell 5. As a listener of RBN, you're surely concerned about being informed and being ready for whatever may come. Please consider the following questionnaire as a soul-jarring wake-up call. If you answer no to more than 2 of these following questions, you probably aren't going to make it through any major disruption in our country. The questions were compiled by people that have been there. Are you really ready? Do you own your own firearm for the primary defense and protection of you and your loved ones? Have you ever been professionally trained to stand against life-threatening behavior? Have you ever practiced enough to fire 500 rounds during a 2 to 4 day time frame, day and night? Can you load, unload, fire, and clear a jam in total darkness? Have all the adults in your household been professionally trained? Are you, life and death, comfortable with your abilities with pistol, revolver, shotgun, and rifle? Are you aware that everything that you do to prepare for an emergency is a waste of time, money, and energy? If you haven't honed your abilities to their highest level to protect and keep what you have, do you have the repair parts that will most likely be needed for each of your firearm, and do you have the ability to install those parts? Could you completely clean every firearm you own? Are you aware that your body won't go where your mind hasn't been? In other words, without proper training, followed by regular practice, you probably will not win a gunfight. Well, how did you measure up? Take the once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to start correcting your deficiencies by receiving your Commander lifetime membership with Front Sight Firearms Training Facility. A one-time donation to RBN for $500 will give you a Commander lifetime membership at Front Sight as a tremendously huge thank you bonus. See details on RBN's webpage to make it happen. The clock is ticking. You had better be ready before it happens.
When all this twisted steel was swept away, did these remaining holes reveal what's really happened?
Welcome back to our show here, and a story that's breaking from the Gateway Pundit. The director of national intelligence allegedly has the actual call records between Seth Rich and WikiLeaks, and it's now presumed that Brennan's CIA was more involved in his death than we previously thought. Of course, we already knew that. The claim that it was Russian hacking has already been completely discredited, and CrowdStrike, which was claimed to have validated the Russian intrusion, has now basically pulled back from that and said, no, we didn't actually find anything. It was another lie to get you to go along with the agenda, which was to elect Hillary Clinton here. Speaking of elections, Senator Catherine Cortez Masto, a former state attorney general floated as a potential 2020 running mate, has withdrawn her name from the Biden campaign's consideration. She still supports him through the general election, but doesn't want the vice president's job, which I can understand. I mean, John Adams said it was the most boring job in government to just sit there in the Senate waiting for a tie to break. Things are heating up with China. Trump had a press conference earlier today. One of the things he did was pull all U.S. funding from the World Health Organization over claims that the World Health Organization helped to conceal the severity of the coronavirus at the behest of Beijing. So the money is going to be redistributed to other health agencies that toe the political line. China is talking very, very tough. They've expelled yet another so-called trespassing U.S. warship from the South China Sea. They're running exercises with their 2 new aircraft carriers. They're even threatening to invade Taiwan. And then there was the change of status of Hong Kong, which violates the treaty signed between China and the United Kingdom regarding the return of Hong Kong, which granted them a certain amount of autonomy, and China has just gone back on that one. Trump sets a bad example. He keeps breaking treaties and agreements and everything. He goes, well, if the United States does it, I guess we can do it here. Trump also got on the issue of intellectual and security property theft, and the White House is expelling Chinese grad students with ties to the People's Liberation Army. Meanwhile, over at YouTube, they have been deleting comments critical of the Chinese Communist Party, and YouTube says it's a systems error, really. It's just a bug. You know, you people, you don't know how programming works. Just take our word for it. It was an honest bug. Well, YouTube is doing a lot of business in China right now. U.S. declares Hong Kong no longer autonomous and accuses China of violating treaty with UK. And this, of course, the treaty was signed back in the 1990s during the transfer of power, guaranteeing freedom for Hong Kong residents. Things are ramping up over there. Does Trump really think we can win a war against China with all else that's going wrong with Minneapolis, with COVID-19, with the economy in tatters, and a population that generally doesn't trust the government anymore? It would be the most foolish thing he could do, in my opinion, and I'm sure you share that as well. Now, Turkish President Erdogan is saying that Turkey will not allow Israel to claim new West Bank territories. What he plans to do about it, I don't know, but he's out there talking tough on that. All righty, talking about the economic news here for a little bit. We're coming up on another commercial break during which we're going to open the phones for the second half of the hour. China secures Brazilian soy as trade war restart appears imminent. Yes, let's get back to trade. Peace through commerce. Good idea, I think. The futures are treading water in the calm before the U.S.-China storm and the Trump Twitter crackdown. And today, I think especially, really showed that the stock market is completely disconnected from like the job numbers. And JP Morgan's Diamond is admitting Fed liquidity is what's propping up the stocks. The Deutsche Bank CEO is saying markets are too optimistic about the coronavirus recovery. It's a mess out there. When it all falls apart, it's going to fall apart fast. Absolutely will. Already over 40 million jobless in 10 weeks. Nobody ever imagined it would get this bad. Well, some of us did out here in the independent media. After a $25 million bailout, American Airlines will be cutting 5,000 jobs. There are companies that are letting ordinary workers go while giving their executives bonuses to induce them to remain on board. Okay, the Air Force is now accepting bids to build an R2-D2-like Skyborg co-pilot. I guess George Lucas was a little ahead of his time, and this is the idea of having a human pilot and a robot pilot piloting future aircraft. So that may solve some of the interfacing problems. Over in Alabama, one of the candidates for mayor is out there calling for public hanging of drug dealers. Well, the dealers wouldn't be there if there weren't drug dealers. Got to take a break for commercials. We got a caller waiting on the line already, and we'll be right back.
You are tuned in to the Republic Broadcasting Network. Visit our website by going to republicbroadcasting.org.
Homeowners, are you in foreclosure, expecting to be served with a foreclosure lawsuit, or suspect your lender has coerced you into an illegal mortgage transaction? A huge number of mortgages made in the last 10 years have legal issues and are possibly defective. State laws and the U.S. Supreme Court have upheld that defective mortgage documents are grounds for foreclosure defense and for counterclaims in favor of the homeowner. If your mortgage has been sold or assigned since closing the loan, it may be defective and you may be paying the wrong party, and the lender may not have standing or the right to foreclose or collect payments under the law. If you would like to know if your mortgage is legal or not, or know if you are paying the right party, we can help. Our initial consultations are free of charge. We are not attorneys. We are legal researchers and work closely with experienced lawyers who know how to help you find the evidence to help you keep your home. Call toll free 1-855-2-KEEP-IT. That's 1-855-2-KEEP-IT today.
Here at Republic Broadcasting Network, we have been building our online store. Well, we have been focusing on bringing you the best talk show host in the country. Here at Republic Broadcasting Network, we also want our listeners to have products they can use every day and in times of emergency. We have added new products each week to our store. Your support of this network, plus products at the best prices, is a win-win situation. Check out our new store. Go to our website, republicbroadcasting.org, and click on the online store located at the top of our website. Together, we can continue to grow RBN and help our listeners prepare for the future. Go to republicbroadcasting.org and click on our online store or call us.
800-724-2719 extension 3. 800-724-2719 extension 3.
So you love talk radio? Then you'll love TalkStreamLive.com. TalkStream Live is always on, 24/7 with the best streaming talk shows. Find your favorite talkers and discover some new ones. It's free, readily available online or on mobile with any smartphone or tablet. Finding your favorite talk shows all in one place has gotten a whole lot easier. Just go to TalkStreamLive.com. Be sure to download the free apps from Google Play or the iTunes App Store.
The Republic Broadcasting Network late night premiere show of Redfield Hardcore is hosted by activists that want to hear from you, the listeners. So that you can get involved in the activism, please call in at 800-313-9443 at 10 p.m. to enter the discussion. To book yourself as a guest, call our studio at 202-657-5715 or contact RBN staff. Remember, keep it real and take the red pill.
We the people, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and
And welcome back to our show here. We're going to head to the telephone, starting with Mike in Kentucky. Hello, Mike. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Oh, a couple times I've watched your, different people have made a kind of an illustration or an adaptation of your essay, All Wars Are Bankers' Wars.
Yes.
And I wanted your estimate of how credible you think that quote is that you have in there, and I can go look it up myself, but I just wanted to how well you might have vetted the quote that when the bank charter for the first bank of the United States was revoked, helping to provoke the War of 1812, that some member of the Rothschild cabal said that we should bring those impudent Americans back under colony status. In other words,
yes.
They basically whipped up their war dog there and sent in the redcoats. Is that
that was basically it? Yeah, and believe it or not,
it's a fairly well-known quote. I mean, it's
it's a fairly well-known quote. It's a fairly well-known quote, and interestingly enough, during the Civil War, the British once again saw an opportunity to return the United States to colonial status. It didn't work out that time either, any better than it did in 1812. But yeah, I mean, Britain was still in the process of losing its empire, and we were one of the biggest losses they had suffered.
Well, and along those lines, that's kind of why I'm bringing this up is that credibility. Those creatures, of course, the mentality there of trying to financialize the United States and bring us back under some kind of colony status. When the recalled senators, led by Jefferson Davis, stood up and said, that basically they couldn't do anything anymore. They didn't have the authority from their state governments to vote on anything or sit on any committees or anything. So he just gave a farewell address and walked out. Well, the newspapers, which were probably controlled not necessarily by patriots, in big bold black ink letters said the Union is dissolved. Well, it wasn't dissolved. And the Congress adjourned sine die, which means they did not set a date to reconvene. Mm-hmm. But the date for Congress to reconvene is in the Constitution. Lincoln ordered the Congress back to convene again, and they've never met on the proper day since. So you can argue, and I think it was argued and ruled, whether it's a moot point or not, that we have an occupation government ever since then, because Congress is not meeting on the right day. They're like an imitation Congress. And so that's where a lot of people claim that what we're dealing with today is constructive fraud. And so they declared a quorum in 1913, and most of the Congress people had an alibi. They had a train ticket that said they left on the train, and they had a voice vote for the Federal Reserve Act. The Federal Reserve Act, they all had plausible deniability. If a constituent or a banker in their home district said, well, we didn't vote for that, I've got my train ticket, I was on the train going home, and there's no record. Now, Thomas Massey most recently was described as the most hated man in Washington because he demanded an actual vote for that $6.2 trillion. And like you say, in all wars are bankers' wars. This works back to money. They're trying to pull another fast one on us. They're leveraging more debt based on what? The potential tax revenue of our great-great-grandchildren at this point? I mean, how far out are they leveraging this spending spree?
Until
Mitch
the end of the
McConnell's
human
being
race.
right. I'm sorry.
Until the end of the human race.
Yeah, I guess there's no more birth certificates to birth us into a new economic, and that's what it looks like. They're trying to create they're trying to birth us into this digital commerce matrix or something. I don't know whether it'll be with Bill Gates' quantum dot tattoo or whatever, contact tracing apps or any number of things to try to start a new foundation, because was it you that also pointed that out? I've seen charts of it, that the average life of a fiat currency is about 100 years, and we're 113 years into this one.
Yes.
So the Federal Reserve System and the petrodollar, I guess you could say, is sort of a revamp of the fiat currency.
It is a fiat currency.
It's done though, right? I mean, is the petrodollar pretty much done?
Yeah,
So
countries
what
are
else
turning
is-
away from it. That's what started the war in Iraq and the war in Libya, as they wanted to trade their oil in currencies other than the dollar.
Oh, and set up a gold-backed dinar.
Yes.
I guess you're familiar with Jim and Joanne Moriarty's story, the escape from Al Qaeda. Those would make an excellent interview if you could get them. I don't know.
All right.
I've heard them a few. Yeah, if you can get them to talk about how that Glenn Beck is controlled by the CIA, and as William Colby supposedly said, that's another quote I'd love to be able to find concrete proof on. Anybody of any significance in the media is controlled by the CIA. It goes right in line with Chuck Schumer said, right? Anyway, that's all I had. I just really wanted to try to nail down that quote from the Rothschilds, because I don't think they didn't give up.
No,
They're
they
still
didn't.
trying to do
And the reason the quote is documented is it appeared in an editorial that was published in the British newspapers.
Okay. Well, that's a
All
good,
right,
good
so-
enough source for me. Thanks.
Thanks a lot for the phone call. We're going to switch over to Jim in New York. Hi, Jim. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Oh, hi, Mike. you had a caller yesterday, I think his name was Rick, and questioned this Minnesota incident. And to me, doing a little research, to me it looks like another staged incident. You know, turns out that both the victim and the police officer both worked at the same club doing security, a club
Yes.
in Minnesota. That's too big a coincidence. I'm sorry. No, that doesn't happen. I think was all, and I think a lot of these incidents are created, staged. I mean, if they staged Sandy Hook, these other false flag shootings, why not stage these incidents? And of course, Antifa is with the rioters in Minneapolis, as well as the quote patriot guys with ARs. I
Yes.
called about a month ago. I said no one goes in city limits with ARs unless they had prior permission from the authorities. Never. It does not happen. Not in a city limit. So I think the federal people who are running this operation, they want these riots. And they also want to control these riots. It's sort of like a beta test, if you will.
Well, I don't think this is a beta
federal
test.
government.
I think that they're trying for the right thing, because if these riots continue, if they are nationwide, and tonight is really going to tell the story if the arrest of Chauvin is going to cool things down here. But if the violence continues, then the government has a justification for declaring a national emergency.
Yes, that's very possible. So about a year ago, I called saying that, we always have to look at these, what I would call the root lie. And, the root lie of 9/11, Sandy Hook. So they have, with this Minnesota incident, they have us arguing over race, police brutality. But the real question is, did this even happen? So while we're all arguing, the deeper question is, what actually happened in this incident? What do you think?
Well, my first reaction would be, you got to be kidding. But on the other hand, looking at how much has gone on that involved deception, like the Boston bombing and whatnot, it's a fair question.
Yes.
It's a fair question.
Yes, and I don't believe anything on television. I take at face value and question it right off the bat. If it's on television, it can't be trusted. Did you ever go to the author Miles Mathis?
The name rings a bell. I think I did.
Mike, he's very interesting writer. And he was warning years ago that the intelligence agencies were planning race wars to divert attention from other problems. And this has been going on since the 1960s. To government diverting people's focus away from important things and deliberately causing these race problems and other problems.
Yes.
But I know you're very busy, but he has a very interesting website. Some of his articles I don't believe. I think it's over the top. But some of them he's spot on. And if you have time, I encourage you to look at his site. Anyway, I know you have other callers, so thank you, and you have a great weekend.
Thank you very much. And we're going to switch over to Dustin in New Jersey. Hello, Dustin. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Hey, real quick before I called in on my topics, reminds me. Remember the white helmets setups? Remember when
Yes.
they planted a bomb in a car and it blew up, and all the people ran in to lay down? Remember that video?
I remember that
You ever
video.
see? So if you cut out all the people running out after the bomb goes on, just cut that to people laying there, it shows a different picture, right? And
Yes, it does.
influences people. So you don't know, man. Like, no, Mike, like I said, I don't know. None of these guys were, Mike, they live by the sword, they die by the sword, both of them. Like none. But you know what? 2 weeks from now, nobody's going to even know George Floyd, because what happened to the other guy, Arwan, the guy who went into the garage of the construction? He's off the front page now, right?
Yes.
So you see, 2 weeks from now, nobody's going to remember this because it's going to be something else. So I mean, I don't know, but it's crazy, Mike. I don't know if you saw the pictures. Some of the National Guard guys over in Minneapolis, they're dressed like they're in Iraq.
Yes.
They're ready to. They got the mask on, the whole charade, the whole uniform going on. But Mike, I noticed like some of the Humvees, they seem like they got updated microwave dispersal weapons on there.
Yes.
Because I was like, holy crap, those are new models. Either that or they're like, they got the sound, but it's more like the microwave for. But I mean, at this point, 3 days later, you're still rioting. Come on, obviously this is being fanned up.
Yes.
For a purpose, But moving on, Mike, because 2 weeks from now, we're not going to even be probably talking about that. Mike, the drone thing with the RDD2. Remember 2 years ago, or maybe wasn't the Air Force like tinkering around where there's like a drone that's going to fly next to you like you're a wingman?
Yes.
Remember that? What happened to that? It was
It
going
shot
to fly
itself
next
down.
to you. Yeah, man, that was like crap. I mean, this is the waste of money of the military-industrial complex.
Yes.
I mean, come on, man. Like 10 aircraft carriers. China's got 2, and Mike, we ain't gonna do crap with them. You ain't gonna attack China. Come on, people. They got a 2 million man standing land army. Okay, you're not gonna do squat. Okay, I mean, come on. And for what? For Hong Kong and Taiwan. That's all in Asia, guys. That has nothing to do with. Everything else has to do with economics. This
Yes.
is just BS. But like, I don't know, Mike. And my last thing on computers, Mike, because before I get off, are you still doing rendering work?
Yes, I am.
I'm just curious, like, this is a personal question. Like, what kind of processor are you using? Like anything over like 8 cores, or?
I'm using an 8-core machine. It's built
Okay,
to my
you think
specifications.
You think it's worth getting more than 8 core? I mean, unless you're working in a corporation or something, do you think it's worth getting more than 8 cores, 16 threads?
Well, I'm a great
like
believer in massive parallelism, and I'd rather have a rack full of Raspberry Pi 4s than a single chassis like I have right now.
And by the way, did you see the new Raspberry Pi 4? It comes with 8. They got an 8 gig version now, I believe.
Yes.
And
64-bit.
it's like $80 or something
Yes.
like that. That thing's amazing. I know they said they have throttling issues because it gets hot. But if you have a good, decent little heat sink on that thing, for the price point, that's amazing. But do you know, by the way, can you install like Windows on that thing, or is that just like Linux based?
I was going to say, why would you put Windows on a machine like that? But yeah, it's a Debian variant of Linux runs on there, and that Raspberry Pi 4 benchmarks out the same as the old Cray XMP, which was considered.
Isn't that amazing?
Yeah.
And it's like smaller than a pack of cigarettes. Like
yes.
if you put it in that I mean, there's multiple different cases you can get. I know I
Yes.
saw cases that have, like the cases, the heat sink, but it was a tiny piece of equipment to really give you a lot of like ability to do different things. You know,
That's a lot
if
of
anybody
compute
wants to,
power in a small package.
what do they call them? Tinker. There's like another one called Tinker something. I forgot the name of it. It's like a Tinker. It's called Tinker Toy or Tinker something. It's like a little motherboard, like, you know, it's a little like Raspberry Pi style. There's like a lot of different companies that are out there. Like there's one called, it's like a coffee name. I forgot. But it's actually Intel i5 or i3 on there. All right, Mike. I'm done. Have a good night.
All right, same to you. We'll be right back.
What would you say if I told you we have a new tool that will increase production and lower maintenance costs for your meat processing company? And it would pay for itself in just 6 weeks.
When pigs fly!
The new Ease Off Model Easy 4 replaces old spring-style carcass droppers and is faster, safer, and more reliable. The Ease Off lowers or lifts 1,000 pounds to or from your rail automatically using our remote control.
Sounds expensive. Can I afford it?
Can you afford not to try the Ease Off? It installs fast with just 3 bolts in place of your current dropper. The effortless operation will reduce fatigue and injuries, speed up your line, eliminate downtime, and increase profit.
How can I order my Ease Off?
Go to easeoff.com, EAZEOFF.com, and hurry because we are offering $200 off on the new Easy 4 for a limited time. Easeoff.com. We make pigs fly. Cows too. Ease Off LLC, Summersville, Missouri, 417-932-6419.
Hey, honey, I'm home. I grabbed a newspaper on the way home. Look at all the news today.
Don't you know that all you're going to get in the newspaper is propaganda, twisted news, and false information?
Honey, this is a national newspaper. It has to be true.
Ha! For some reason, the majority of the population believe anything the mainstream media tells them. The newspaper doesn't give out the important attention of what's happening to this country and news that affects our daily lives. Say, does that newspaper mention anything about the North American Union?
No, not that I can see.
I didn't think so. You need to go to www.newswithviews.com, where truth is more important than political correctness. That's www.newswithviews.com. Hey, don't throw that away. We can use that in the birdcage.
Okay, move over. Let me start reading newswithviews.com.
The truth? Read all about it at newswithviews.com. Newswithviews.com, where reality shatters illusion.
Extend your life with Extendovite. Extendovite really works. Here are some reviews from Amazon.com. Nikki, great product. Have to try it for a few months to see results. After taking Extendovite for about 6 months, I have noticed improvement on the numbness of my hands and wrists from carpal tunnel. I will continue to buy the product. Ken Peaks, 5 out of 5 stars. Works as advertised. This formula is very powerful. Be careful to follow directions. I am feeling much better. My heart rate and blood pressure has stabilized and my lower edema has reduced. Lower leg pain due to blood clots has disappeared. Thank you. To order, call 1-877-928-8822. That's 1-877-928-8822 or visit our website at heartdrop.com.
Extend your life with Extendovite.
When all this twisted steel was swept away, did these remaining holes reveal what's really happened?
Welcome back to our show here. Coming up on the top of the hour, we've got a few more callers waiting, and then we're going to close the phone lines to give Claire her turn at the microphone here. So let's go to Steve in Oregon. Hello, Steve. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Hey, Mike.
Yes, Steve.
Hi. It's actually Mark from North Carolina.
Oh, I'm sorry. Mark in North Carolina. My apologies. It's a long list. What can I tell you? Okay, Mark in North Carolina, what's on your mind?
Hi, what's on my mind is a couple of things. One thing, you called before for you again. I don't know. Lately, he's pissing me off. You know, I mean, some of the things he's saying. This is no joke. What happened to George? This is no joke at all. What happened to this guy?
No.
This is they used an illegal tactic. The guy was already handcuffed on top of it. Okay, he's looking worse and worse. All right, he was brutally murdered, plain and simple. Okay, and to blame him or to say because he had a criminal record or whatever else, I don't care if he was. First of all, he had definitely reformed himself. Okay,
yeah.
Everything I understand, he had totally reformed himself. Second of all, even if he had, you don't use those type of tactics. Okay, this is not what police are supposed to be using. Illegal tactics. Now, I found out something very disturbing yesterday too. I was watching Jesse Ventura. He came on with Rick Sanchez there on RT.
Yes.
And he said he used to be the governor of Minnesota. First of all, he said that they don't even go to an academy. Okay, not that an academy is really that great of a thing. Basically you learn a lot of stuff that they just want to tell you. A lot of it is, garbage. But there are certain things you learn, and you learn not to do just what was done in this case. Okay, you learn not to. Whatever you do not attack the neck. Period.
Yes.
You use a baton. You don't slam somebody in the head. Okay. There is no reason for it. Not very seldom is police work a one-on-one situation. It's usually like 3, 4, 5, or more on one. All right. So there's no reason for it. Where I worked in corrections for a while, yeah, it might come to the fact that you might have to save your life by doing something that's not taught to the academy because you're outnumbered most of the time. Okay, you don't have a gun, right? Just basically your bare hands and maybe some pepper spray. But that's besides the point. You're still told not to ever lean on somebody's neck, not to put your knee on somebody's neck or anything else. So Mr. Floyd was plain murdered. Okay?
Yeah.
There's no excuse for it. There's nothing to forget about. We should not forget about this. We should remember. And remember this. The police are an arm of the government. They hide behind a government badge. Okay? And when they're out of control, there's very few people more dangerous than out of control officer because they hide behind that government badge and can get away with things most people couldn't get away with. That's why
you're right about that. All right, Mark, I got to let you go. We got to take a station identification break. We're going to finish the callers we currently have on hold. When we come on back, then it will be the lovely lady Claire.
Did you know that you can be tracked and traced when you're online? With identity theft and cybercrimes on the rise, your passwords, your identity, and even your physical location can be revealed to complete strangers. Would you like to surf the internet anonymously and not have to worry about these threats? Well, now you can by visiting patriotinternet.com. For about $2 per month, patriotinternet.com will conceal your IP address and your physical location, allowing you to browse the web, send emails, and instant message anonymously. patriotinternet.com will bypass filters, block sites, and keyword blocking. You can also bypass logging by your router and your ISP. With patriotinternet.com, there is no software to install and uses 128-bit encryption for your protection. When using wireless hotspots, patriotinternet.com shields your information from identity thieves and is compatible with Windows, Mac, and Linux. Protect your identity and your freedom with anonymous internet access from patriotinternet.com. Visit patriotinternet.com today.
You're listening to Republic Broadcasting Network because you can handle the truth.
What really happened with your host, Mike Rivero. You're listening to the Republic Broadcasting Network, where you'll find out what the Fukushima's going on.
Welcome back to our show, hour number 2. We've got 3 callers waiting online. We're going to take their calls, and then we're going to spend time with the lovely lady Claire here. So now we're going to go to Steve in Oregon. Hello, Steve. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Hi, Mike. Thanks. Yeah, about the George Floyd killing. Yesterday, you were mentioning it's near the hyoid bone, and that was a dangerous part of the throat. I'm a chiropractor, and I've also taught college anatomy for 5 years. And I'm also a martial artist. And I tell you, like pressure points on the body, that where the guy had his knee, that is the sweet spot of all sweet spots.
Yes.
Because right next to the hyoid, to the wing of the hyoid bone, passes the carotid artery on each side. And there's a fork in it as it comes up into the brain. And in that fork, they have what they call the carotid sinus. And basically, it measures your blood pressure. You know how if you're laying down and you get up quickly, you can kind of feel dizzy for a couple steps. It's because the pressure receptor, like when you're standing, your heart is down and your head's up. So you need a certain amount of pressure to push the blood up to the brain. And that baroreceptor senses it there in the carotid. And anyway, so if you put pressure on that, then the heart interprets that as we already have enough pressure to the brain, and so you can slow down the heart rate by putting pressure there. And I've seen a lot of videos and stuff of martial arts matches. I've seen it in boxing, martial arts, street fights, when people get hit, not in the face, but in the throat, just right on that spot. It knocks them out. I've had to use my martial arts skill before. A guy came to my front door with a loaded rifle and loaded up on meth and alcohol and jealousy, came in and tried to kill everybody. Fortunately, I was able to put him in the sleeper hold, and that's just right where you put it, right on that carotid sinus. So as the cop was putting all his pressure through his kneecap, which is hard, right on that spot, it probably slowed his heart rate to stopping. You'd be unconscious in 6 seconds. I used it. When I used it on that guy, he went limp on 6 for sure. It works. And he had it right on. So the guy probably just relaxed, and he may have assumed that he was cooperating, But I'm sure he was out in seconds, 6 seconds. He was out and not able to struggle anymore as the guy held it down. Unfortunately, sending strong signals to his heart to slow down the heart rate. You can stop the heart rate hitting somebody there. You can kill him with a strike to that spot.
Well, obviously that did happen.
Yeah, kind of a slow motion one, not a strike. But, it doesn't change what he did. He was responsible for that guy's life, and you should have been checking him.
Yes.
All right. Well, that's all I have for today.
Well, that's enough. Thank you for the information. That was good information you gave us. Thank you for the phone call. We're going to switch over to Jim in Illinois. Hello, Jim. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Oh, Michael. This afternoon, Donald Trump came out, and everyone was expecting him to say something regarding the 40 million plus Americans out of work or the situation in Minnesota, which he did not do. He spent 10 minutes talking about China, criticizing them, and basically telling them, you're going to do things my way. If not, something's going to happen to you. He spends time threatening China, but says nothing about a major city in America that's on fire, and he's the president, and he says nothing about more and more Americans being out of work. And I was told, or I was listening to the stock market this morning, they might have over 50 million Americans out of work next month. So what does this say about this president?
It says that he's pushing foreign policy because he's made a total mashup of domestic policy.
Well, does that mean he doesn't mind going to war with China?
I think it would be insane to do that, but there's a lot of people who want war with China. They think it's going to fix all the problems, or at least the economic ones.
Well, that's true, but you're going to have a lot more dead people, though.
Well, they're all just useless eaters and Democratic voters anyway, right?
Oh, there you go. So, Michael, I'll let you go on that note. Have a nice weekend.
All right. Thanks an awful lot. We're going to switch over to Al in Canada. Hello, Al. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Hi, Mike. Issuing the currency as a loan and interest is an economic problem.
Yes.
And economics is a social science. It's not a real science.
True.
I wanted to talk about, do you think it's possible at this time when the United States is weak, and it is, that something like this, these riots in Minnesota, to fan up this, is possible that their outside influence is pushing this?
Oh, no question.
Yeah,
No,
I
no
figured that too.
question. This
The Chinese
is
too
being,
cute, as you would say,
yeah.
right?
I mean, we've had like that Ahmed guy that the other caller was talking about, that was accosted by the police after going into this house under construction, and barely a ripple. This one almost seems engineered to provoke the maximum amount of shock and outrage, including how they handled first a press conference saying we don't see anything criminal and then arresting him one day later. It sent two very bad messages out there. The first, that we're going to back up this cop no matter what he did wrong. Second, that if you riot enough, you can get what you want. I think we're going to see a lot more rioting tonight.
Yeah, well, exactly what you said. Like, we haven't really seen anything like this in a number of years,
No.
and that's
This
what's
is
kind of
already
scary.
worse than the Rodney King riots.
Yes. I mean, I've seen the pictures. It's horrific. What do you say? I mean, we won't know until it's all over, right?
Yeah, well, what I'm saying to everybody who's out there on the streets right now, you are being played, okay? You are part of somebody's agenda to bring about significant structural change to our culture.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And it's something that the people that are actually participating in this unwillingly may not really like.
That's true. That's what a useless
do
idiot
have-
is all about.
Yep. Your country is still the freest on the face of this planet. So, there's a lot of problems. I mean, the mail-in voting, the unemployment. I mean,
Yes.
This is horrific. This is like, it can't get any worse. And it just keeps piling on and piling on and piling on. Mike, you got to run.
Yep. I could hardly do any worse.
Maybe you will one day.
We're seeing a banner headline right now where the Minneapolis mayor has issued an 8 p.m. curfew. So things are getting serious. I think there's something like between 500 and 600 National Guard on the streets right now. Hopefully this thing is going to calm down, but I don't know. There are too many people who are out there saying, we got to stand by the cops no matter what they do. And then you've got the other side saying, we're being targeted because we're black, which is not backed up by the statistics. Anyway, Al, thanks a lot for the phone call. We're going to let you go. And we're going to, what? Okay, we're going to close the phone lines now until the bottom of the hour, a little after the bottom of the hour here. Repeating the announcement I started the show with for those who tune in only for the phone calls. Claire and I are going to be taking a bit of a vacation. You know me, when I had the pneumonia, I worked at this broadcast mic, with an oxygen tube under my nose. More recently, I was doing the show from a wheelchair. And I normally don't take time off unless it's really necessary. And right now it's necessary. So we're going to be taking 2 weeks off and we'll be back on the air Monday, June 15th. Now, in the meantime, they're not going to be doing rebroadcasts all the time. Steve Elkins is going to take a couple of the shows. David Grant's going to take a couple of the shows. Ryan Dawson is going to be filling in on Fridays. We just got the word about that one. So it's going to be an interesting show, even though I personally am not involved with it anymore. I shouldn't say that. They could fire me. Oh, that's right. Slaves have to be sold. Okay. So for those of you watching on YouTube TV, this gorgeous creature sitting next to me is the lovely Lady Claire. And Lady Claire, take it away.
Well, Michael, I have a few things that I feel need to be said about the whole situation in Minneapolis. And my heart goes out to all of the people there, particularly family and friends of this gentleman. And I think we need to ask some larger societal questions. And to those of you who are in the teaching profession, law enforcement, call in the next half hour. I want to hear your thoughts. And my question is, why did this guy wind up in jail in the first place? And I am hoping and praying that all members of all faith communities, mine, Jewish, Muslim, Buddhist, everyone can get on the same page, non-GMOs, and say, what can we do to prevent kids from, or young men and women from going down a path of some kind of crime?
Well, George Floyd was actually trying to actively do some of that after
Yeah.
he moved to Minneapolis. He was out there. They've got him on that videotape
Oh,
urging young people
yeah.
to give up gun violence, you
Yeah.
know, to just come back and work within your community.
Mhm.
Very clearly, he had, in fact, turned over a new leaf
Yeah.
and reformed himself.
Mhm.
And, you know, like I was saying to a caller we had yesterday saying, oh, this guy's hopeless. He was a criminal when he was young. And, you know, we've all done things in our wild and crazy youth that we look back and wish we hadn't done. That's
Yeah.
that's just a
Yeah.
human experience here.
Absolutely.
But it was obvious this guy was trying to live a very, very clean life.
Mhm.
Hardly anybody in Minneapolis knew about his background.
Yeah.
And certainly the police officers who were accosting him on the street,
Yeah.
they had no reason to know.
Yeah.
And no means of knowing
Mhm.
until they ran his ID, which they never did. They basically got him killed, and only then did they start running the IDs and say, oh, we got to find something we can smear this guy with in the public mind.
Mhm. But I would like to hope that America can come together, that we're better than what I saw this last week with this horrific incident.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to make a comment here. I belong to a race. It's called human.
Yes.
I'm one of a lot of human beings, some of whom look a little like me, some of whom don't, some who think a little like me, some who don't. But we need to allow ourselves to be united by that basic quality of humanity. And what I'm asking myself, Mike, is why do we have such horrific recidivism in this country? And that word is a 75-cent word, meaning people who go to prison tend to go back to prison. They tend to go back to committing crimes. How can we as a society prevent that? How do we prevent it from the first time?
Well, we have a healthy economy where everybody that wants a job can find one. I don't think anybody just gets up in the morning and says, well, there's nothing on TV. I think I'll go hold up a convenience store. You know,
I hear you.
you know,
I hear
as
you.
a stress
Yeah.
reducer.
Yeah, yeah. And I have a little challenge for Betsy DeVos, who is our Secretary of Education. Betsy, we never talk anymore. We never did. But one thing I would love for her to think about doing, there are small private schools. I know on the island of Oahu, there was the Kumon schools. What they do is they find out exactly where the child is functioning, what the child needs. They give them structure and they give them support so that this kid gets up to where they should be for their age, you
Mhm.
know? And I would love for her to plop one of these Kumon charter schools in one of the worst sections of our inner cities and just watch and see how possible it is for kids to blossom when they really get an education that talks to the individual child.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, in my world, one of the worst forms of child abuse that can happen is for kids to be getting passed from grade to grade to grade to grade, graduating from high school illiterate, innumerate, and not able to think logically. And that to me is child abuse, Mike.
I would agree.
Right then and there. And why cities and parents who have kids in these school systems are letting cities get away with this in counties, I don't understand it. You know, if you and I had had a kid, we probably would have homeschooled her or him.
Probably.
You know, but parents, you need to get involved. You need to be
Well, I don't
there
know.
if
Look
you
at the
can.
disaster the dog turned into. Let me rethink that one.
No, but I think we as a society need to be asking these questions right now and have something that prevents kids who are acting out in bad ways from going to juvenile hall or going to prison. Because
Yes.
they are not going to get what they need there. I know in my own family, in our family, we have two great young family members with
Yes.
families of their own. And I remember watching them growing up, and what they had all around them was love and structure. And they always told their kids, if there's something you want to do, you can do it. And they meant it.
Yes.
And both young women have just succeeded phenomenally in their chosen careers. Love and structure. Gosh, that gives a kid an edge that they need. All children need that, you know? Going back to my talking points, as if things couldn't be worse for the country of Syria, now the EU has decided to extend harsh sanctions on Syria amid the pandemic, citing chemical weapons use. This comes to us from almazdarnews.com, and apparently EU officials have confirmed their intention to extend sanctions against the Syrian government, forgetting the fact, of course, conveniently, that Syria is also struggling with COVID-19, and, you know, their healthcare system is not great. And apparently a European official told reporters in Brussels on Wednesday that the extent of sanctions will send the Syrian government a strong message that the current approach, which includes violence, the deterioration of the humanitarian situation, and the use of chemical weapons, is totally unacceptable.
Well,
Come
you know, the
on.
deterioration in the humanitarian
Yeah.
conditions is what happens when you drop bombs on the people. And the chemical weapons claim has been discredited so many times.
Yeah.
And, you know, our corporate media, which is out there even now, arrogating itself
Yeah.
to be the arbiter of what is true, they lied.
Yeah.
They absolutely lied. And, you know, remember when that was all going down, I posed the question,
Mhm.
okay, why would Assad do something like that at this particular time? And the answer is no, he wouldn't. He'd be the stupidest thing he could do.
Yeah.
And the only answer they'd come up with is, oh, he's insane. He's not thinking logically and rationally. Of course, he's going to do things like that. Really? Prove it. And as that caller mentioned earlier in the show, there was that
Mhm.
whole white helmets debacle.
Yeah. Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, this is insane. It is inhumane. It is stupid. It's counterproductive. And if the European Union wanted to do something intelligent here, they would send some humanitarian supplies, testing kits, whatever, facial masks, some
Yes.
sort of personal protection. It looks like the EU is perfectly fine with hundreds and thousands of Syrians dying
Yes.
from this thing. And, oh, you know, that is nasty in the extreme. I'd like to go to an article from Zero Hedge now. When Pepe Escobar writes something anywhere, guys, I'm going to give you that name again, Pepe Escobar. When he says something, chances are what he has said is very, very true. And he is now warning that India and China are teetering toward a border clash as Beijing is flexing its muscles. This came to Zero Hedge through Asia Times or atimes.com. And now both India and China are member of the BRICS organization. And all of a sudden, you've got a mess going on. You've got India claiming that China is invading them. And apparently there is a 3,488 kilometer long section of what is called the line of control or border, which India is still defining as unresolved. And apparently the Hindustan Times is reporting that India has pushed in high altitude warfare troops with support elements to the eastern Ladakh theater to counter the Chinese People's Liberation Army. And apparently what's happening is the government of India is trying to get the Chinese from building a border infrastructure in the Daulat Beg Oldi section, as it may threaten the line of control. We'll
All
get
right.
back to this after the break.
Got to take a break. We'll be right back.
It's happening, ladies and gentlemen. We here at RBN are working with Front Sight Firearms Training Institute to bring our audience the best in combat, tactical, and defensive firearms training. Whether you're a private citizen who is new to firearms or you have a concealed weapon permit and want a level of training that surpasses what you've received from your local gun range, Front Sight provides priceless education and skills taught by seasoned law enforcement, military, and private citizen instructors to levels that far exceed law enforcement and military standard. With nearly 1 million responsible citizens trained from every town, city, and state from across the United States, Front Sight has bolstered the Patriot movement to a whole new level. Contact Dan Sutterfield by phone at 573-762-2356 or 573-465-2356 or shoot him an email at domedan, DOMEDAN @hotmail.com. This is a limited time opportunity. Don't miss it.
Folks, we're living in a world the likes of which we've never perceived any clearer than we do now. The plan for global governance has been in the works for generations and would have likely been achieved by now, but for the fact that the globalists left open their Achilles heel. With all their tools, Federal Reserve System, fiat currency, no child left behind, and then Common Core education introduced to our schools to dumb us down, vaccines, pharmaceuticals to lobotomize us, GMO foods, insertion of compromised or bought and paid for politicians, judges, mainstream media propaganda, all pieced together like a puzzle designed to ultimately bring the world under submission. But with all their strategy, they forgot one thing: knowledge. And knowledge is power. With knowledge, their bombardment is nullified. Folks, with that, as brilliant and knowledgeable as you've become, among the wisest audience of any radio audience in the world, and you are, I want you to take a moment to reflect and ask yourself, how much of that knowledge did I obtain from Republic Broadcasting Network? How high has my consciousness been raised since I've been a listener? How fast am I now able to discriminate truth from fake news by being a Republic Broadcasting listener? How clear am I now able to see the world since I've been listening to RBN? Ask yourselves those questions, folks. Then ask yourself, what is that knowledge worth to me? Like my morning coffee, how would I survive without it? A voice of truth in a sea of lies. Do we not all need to make sure it survives? Like public broadcasting, we are now finding we can only survive with listener support. Censorship, advertisers being attacked, truth itself being attacked. It's the only way through this. We at Republic Broadcasting humbly ask you to become a supporter. Look at your budget and make a determination of what Republic Broadcasting is worth to you and what you can afford on a monthly basis. Go to republicbroadcasting.org and pledge 20, 30, 40, 50, if possible, 100 a month or more if it's affordable. Click the donate button and become a regular monthly donor. Assure both us and yourself that Republic Broadcasting truth will continue to flow like that morning coffee. The network thanks you.
Well, they're stealing down on Wall Street and in Washington too. You know, it makes me wonder, what's a guy on Main Street to do? I've always tried to be an honest, upstanding kind of guy. But I must admit lately, I thought about giving something else a try. Oh, I want to be a pirate. I want to sail the 7 seas. Yeah, I want to be a pirate.
Welcome back to our show here, and a reminder that Republic Broadcasting is in a perpetual state of fundraising. We can't be here if you're not there. And first of all, a heartfelt thanks to everybody out there who has been donating and supporting Republic Broadcasting all this time. I wish I could say thank you. We've got enough. Well, I can say thank you, but I can't say that we've got enough. Equipment wears out. People get tired. You know, there are bills to be paid, hosting bills, server bills, the electric bill, the duck bill. Those ducks are greedy. Anyway, so the postal address where you can send a check, money order, or if you prefer anonymity cash is Republic Broadcasting Network, 2251 Double Creek Drive, number 302, Round Rock, Texas, 78664. The phone number where you can make a credit or debit card donation is 800-724-2719, extension 3. The network thanks you. So going on back to what's going on in Tibet and Xinjiang province.
Yeah. Apparently, there's a highway that runs from Tibet to southwestern Xinjiang province where the Karakoram Highway, the northern part of the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor, goes from Kashgar to Islamabad. And then you've got a road heading through Balochistan to Pakistan's strategic Gwadar port as part of China's Belt and Road Initiative. Now, I am hoping that someone, Michael, with some global credibility, Sergei Lavrov, are you listening to me? Man, please get on the phone. You're a brother musician also. And I find that wonderful about you. He's a guitarist, by the way, and he always takes his guitar with him. But I am seriously hoping that someone with some global credibility is going to start working the phones and telling both New Delhi and Beijing to pull back. No one needs a war. And of course, India is nuclear armed. Pakistan is nuclear armed. China is nuclear armed.
Here a bomb, there a bomb.
Yeah, it could get very grim very quickly over there. And I believe that I am correct when I state that Pakistan and China do have a degree of a defense pact between them.
Yes.
Yeah, yes.
And of course, if something opens up military, if they actually go to war between India and China, you know the United States is going to come in on India's side.
Of course, yeah. Speaking of nuclear weapons, apparently Russia is getting ready to test a nuclear-powered doomsday drone torpedo. And now, what we've had recently are American and Russian military jets operating very dangerously close to each other.
Mm-hmm.
And Russia has just announced that they're going to launch the Poseidon submarine drone, dubbed the Doomsday drone and or a nuclear torpedo, with a very impressive range that could conceivably autonomously traverse the Atlantic Ocean and cause quite a stir in Washington. And Russian media outlets are reporting on these developments. And they said that RIA Novosti has said that a military source has confirmed that the unmanned underwater vehicle, which can carry a nuclear warhead, is scheduled to launch this fall. Oh, fun. And could be conducted from a K-329 Belgorod nuclear submarine. No indication exactly when that would be. And apparently this particular ship has a speed of between 60 and 100 knots and a very impressive range of 6,200 miles. And when launched from the Barents Sea or somewhere in the Arctic, can traverse the North Atlantic, an area where Russia, China, and the US are all trying to stake their claim, mostly due to trillions of dollars of natural resources beneath the ocean floor. Okay, guys, President Trump earlier made the observation that we are going to test a nuclear weapon.
Yes. Now we know why.
Yeah. Okay. I would like this, you know what, measuring contest between President Trump and President Putin to stop right the heck now. Adults would be looking at ways, Michael, to avoid a nuclear war rather than attempting to sell it to them. Oh, it's perfectly acceptable. The death rate isn't going to be so bad. That's stupidity bordering on madness.
Well, that's the nuclear deterrent. The idea that you're going to bluff the other side into thinking you're crazy enough to actually use such a weapon, which the United States demonstrated at the end of World War II, in order to get the other side to back down and say, all right, you can have the oil that's under this part of the Arctic Ocean.
Yeah. Well, I don't think either man's going to blink. And
Putin
that concerns
certainly won't.
me. No, he certainly won't. And I don't understand why we could not have, maybe I'm the eternal optimist, guys, in case you haven't figured that out. I believe that cooperation.
Why did you marry me?
Because I loved you and I still love you. Okay?
Okay.
But I would love to see a situation where people were cooperating with resources rather than trying to take each other out with a nuclear test.
I would like to see that too.
Yeah.
We got to take a break for commercial.
Got
We'll
it.
be right back.
You are tuned in to the Republic Broadcasting Network. Visit our website by going to republicbroadcasting.org.
Homeowners, if your lender has gone out of business or sold your transaction to another lender or servicer, you may be the victim of a wrongful foreclosure, resulting in the loss of your home. If you've already lost your home, are in foreclosure, or even in good standing, you can challenge the mortgage transaction's illegal issue, and your property can be restored to you, and your foreclosure can be stopped or reversed, and the mortgage transaction declared unenforceable. State laws, U.S. title codes, the Uniform Commercial Codes, and U.S. Supreme Court rulings have upheld that defective mortgage documentations can reverse or stop foreclosures and enforce property title claims in favor of the homeowner. We are having successes in stopping the process of foreclosure, the enforcement of the foreclosure judgments, the sale of property, and evictions after the sale. We are not attorneys, and we don't give legal advice. We are a professional team of legal researchers, providing forensic mortgage audits and expert witnesses. We have the knowledge to produce the evidence and enforce laws regarding your legal issues. We've been in business for 12 years without a complaint. Consultations are free, and we provide a free title search to confirm if your mortgage has legal defects. Please call 855-253-3748. 855, the number 2, keep it today.
Did you know that you can be tracked and traced when you're online? With identity theft and cybercrimes on the rise, your passwords, your identity, and even your physical location can be revealed to complete strangers. Would you like to surf the internet anonymously and not have to worry about these threats? Well, now you can by visiting patriotinternet.com. For about $2 per month, patriotinternet.com will conceal your IP address and your physical location, allowing you to browse the web, send emails, and instant message anonymously. patriotinternet.com will bypass filters, block sites, and keyword blocking. You can also bypass logging by your router and your ISP. With patriotinternet.com, there is no software to install and uses 128-bit encryption for your protection. When using wireless hotspots, patriotinternet.com shields your information from identity thieves and is compatible with Windows, Mac, and Linux. Protect your identity and your freedom with anonymous internet access from patriotinternet.com. Visit patriotinternet.com today.
Extend your life with Extendovite.
Extendovite really works. Here are some reviews from Amazon.com. Amazon customer, 5 out of 5 stars. I'm quite happy about it. This product has relieved what appears to be an angina problem, pain in the chest after climbing stairs, and short on breath. I'm quite happy about it. Dr. Sam Surreal. Good product and ingredients. Kept my blood pressure normal after mild heart attack in 2015. Switched to plant-based diet also to reverse atherosclerosis. John Bispicos, 5 out of 5 stars. Built up my immune system. To order, call 1-877-928-8822. That's 1-877-928-8822 or visit our website at heartdrop.com.
Extend your life with Extendovite.
We will not go down in the night without a fight. You can burn up our mosques and our homes and our schools, but our spirit will never die. We will not go down in Gaza tonight.
Welcome back to our show here, and we're just getting word now that Ralph Winterroad is going to take the show for this coming Monday, and he's going to be talking about his court fights against the Infernal Revenue Service, so that'll be definitely one to tune into. I might even tune into that one myself. I've heard good things about this radio show, but I never get to listen to them. Okay, the phone lines are open, and Claire, if you would pick up with your next story.
Yes, this is more than a little unsettling, Mike. Apparently, Greece has sent military to build a wall amid renewed Turkish migrant chaos threats. And earlier this week, we could see the tensions, border tensions, starting to emerge between historic longtime enemies, Greece and Turkey, particularly concentrated along the Evros River, which separates the two. And apparently, Athens has charged that Turkish troops have conducted a land grab at a site where the river level went down, altering its course, or essentially orchestrating a quiet military invasion of sovereign Greek territory in process. Now, Mike, the animosity between Turkey and Greece has never ratcheted down after the Turkish invasion of Cyprus in the 70s, and it appears that things are getting unraveled here yet again.
Yes.
And again, I would like to ask for calm. I would like to ask for anyone who can influence the situation. And Mike, what do you think is going on with Edragan right now? Has he just officially lost his mind, or what's going on?
Well, yeah, I think he fell in love with the idea of being a center of world attention for a long time, and it's been a while since he got any headlines. And I think that's the primary reason he's out there talking tough about Israel grabbing West Bank territory.
Yeah.
Of course, everybody's opposed to that, except, of course, Israel and the United States.
Yeah.
Okay. And even the EU is kind of like hands off. This is not really a good idea.
Yeah.
But it does feel like, again, we're rushing towards global conflict.
Yeah. And we are not in a position, unfortunately, I think, to prevail. We don't have the troop strength. We don't have the
not
money.
Conventionally.
Yeah, we don't have the money. We don't have
We
the
might
weaponry.
not even win in a nuclear exchange.
That's very scary to me. We have
And
little,
one atomic bomb can ruin your whole afternoon.
seriously, we have some young children in our family who are very lovely and very bright. And I want to see them, I want to see the world's children have a much better future. But we are all going to have to peacefully advocate for that before it happens. And speaking of maybe not advocating for peace, a U.S. destroyer has sailed near China-claimed islands, adding to mounting tensions. And apparently a U.S. military spokesman has made the observation, the destroyer shows China can't claim this territory. They're probably,
Wait a minute.
Yeah.
So the presence of the U.S. warship means China
Yes.
can't claim this territory.
Yes.
What about when a U.S. warship sails into, for example, Sydney Harbor in Australia?
Yeah.
Are they going to come out there and say that Australia can't claim Sydney any longer?
I hear you. It's insane. It's completely insane. Relations between the U.S. and China are just at one of the lowest ebbs I can remember. Can you remember a worsening?
Things are worse than they were back before Nixon went over there and pretty much ended the Cold War.
Yeah. The U.S. is blaming China for coronavirus. U.S. has hostility toward Chinese telecom company, Mike Huawei. Okay. And there are a lot of issues where the nations don't see eye to eye, but this is probably one of the most dangerous. And it has to do with territorial claims, where the U.S. has been challenging Chinese maritime claims in the South China Sea, usually doing it with what they call freedom of navigation exercise. And, sending warships close to China-claimed islands. Now, Mike, China got those islands after World War II through the Cairo Convention. Am I misremembering
No,
this?
you're not. And the United States signed that Cairo Convention because China had owned all those islands before World War II. Japan had conquered them. When Japan surrendered, they had to give back all the territories that they'd conquered. The Cairo Convention divvied them up and said, these were Chinese territories before, they're Chinese territories again. And the U.S. went along with it. And there's a reason it's called the South China Sea.
Yeah. Hello. And what concerns me is how wars of words can escalate into actual shooting wars. And apparently yesterday, the USS Mustin, a guided missile destroyer, sailed near two Chinese-claimed Paracel Islands, Woody Island and Pyramid Rock. And what concerns me is, as you know, Mike, the concept of face in Asia.
Very important in Asia.
Yeah, very important. There is going to be a point in time when Xi Jinping is going to think, in order to not do face, he has got to confront the United States. And that's when the fur is going to start flying.
Well, see, where it gets dicey is the United States is still staying in what is recognized as international waters. They're just sailing very, very close right up to the territorial border. It may be that they're even intruding across the border, which is done to provoke China into a response.
Yeah. But I guess that's what the U.S. is kind of counting on, the U.S. government.
The U.S. government thinks that as long as they can make it look like the other side struck first, like they did at Pearl Harbor, or with the Lusitania, that Americans will just not think about the war at all. They'll just throw a snappy salute at the flag and let their children march off to get blown to bloody bits.
Yeah. It's a not sound idea. It's not an intelligent idea. It's not a thought through idea.
That's That's been a hallmark of the whole Trump administration.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sure he's got advisors who are thinking things through, but every one of them's got their own agenda that they're pushing.
Yeah.
And that's one area where Trump's business expertise is letting him down.
Yeah.
Because he's used to working for organizations where everybody has the same agenda, which is we're going to make money.
Yeah.
And he's not used to working in an organization where this person over here is pushing the Democrat election. This person over here is pushing Federal Reserve economic policy.
Mhm.
This person over here is a war hawk and owns a lot of defense stocks
Yeah.
and wants them to become more valuable.
Mhm.
And he's not used to thinking in those terms, and he doesn't see it happening right in front of him.
Yeah. Yeah. That's unfortunate. I wish that every advisor to the president, just as the president has to do, must put their money into a blind trust.
I would like to see that happen.
That would probably de-escalate things really, really
along with all
quickly.
members of Congress.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
Yes.
Oh, yes.
You put all your wealth in a little closet.
Yep.
And you hand the trustee the key.
Yeah.
And the trustee will go in and just, they'll do the best job they can investing your money.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I'd like to talk about the secret puppet masters behind Trump's war on Iran, which has how can I put this? It is so non-fact based that I almost don't know where to begin. Now, the U.S. administration is saying that its maximum pressure sanctions and threats of war against Iran are based on the danger that Iran is going to develop nuclear weapons. But after decades of inspection by the IAEA, and despite the U.S.'s politicization of the IAEA, it continually reports to the world and the American people that Iran doesn't have a nuclear weapons program. Now, one of the key organizers pushing this hostility toward Iran is a group called United Against Nuclear Iran, or UANI. It was founded in 2008 and it was expanded and reorganized in 2014 under the umbrella of, I love this, the Counter Extremism Project United, or CEPU, to broaden its attacks on Iran and divert U.S. policymakers' attention away from the roles of Israel, Saudi Arabia, and UAE and the other U.S. allies in spreading violence, extremism, and chaos in the greater Middle East. Apparently, the UANI acts as an enforcer of U.S. sanctions by keeping a business registry or list of hundreds of companies from all over the world, from Adidas to Zurich Financial Services, that trade with or are considering trading with Iran. And what this organization does is it hounds these companies by naming and shaming them and they issue reports to the media and urge the Office of Foreign Assets to Control to impose fines and sanctions. And it also has a checklist of companies that have signed a declaration certifying they do not conduct business in or with Iran. Now, one of these key organizations is run by some people who are very, very Zionist and very much pro-Israel and very anti-Palestinians and anti-Iran. I really think, Michael, it's time for the U.S. to get off its high horse about Iran and accept that it is a member in the family of nations and starts dealing with it responsibly and honorably.
Well, there's one thing the U.S. government is very good at, and that's keeping a grudge. I mean, look how long ago was the Castro Revolution in Cuba, and the U.S. is still maintaining the embargo, which is a loss for those of us who like Cuban rum and Cuban cigars.
Yes.
And it's been, 60 some odd years since that happened.
Like that.
Well, back in 1979, the Iranian people got sick and tired of the Shah, who was a U.S. puppet, and they booted him out. And the U.S. is still trying to get back in there because, by golly, we can't let a slave state escape our grasp. It'll give all those other slave states bad ideas.
They might get uppity on good thoughts.
Yes.
Yeah. And I wish that this president was not viewing Iran constantly through the jaundiced perception of Israel's Prime Minister, Bibi Netanyahu. But, Iran is not the problem here.
No.
Iran is not an existential threat to Israel. Benjamin Netanyahu, I believe, understands in his heart of heart that he could go to Tehran, he could create a peace deal immediately.
Yes.
But he needs that fear factor
To control his
to
own
control
people.
his own people.
Mhm.
And Iran is not an existential threat. If anything, it's an economic threat because
Yes,
even
that's it
though
exactly.
even though these people have been blacklisted and sanctioned and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, they are doing just a wonderful job of being very inventive and self-reliant
Yes, they are.
and finding stuff that people want to buy.
Well, see, here's a problem that Israel faces, and it comes not just from
Mhm.
Iran, but from places like Saudi Arabia.
Mhm.
And it has to do with the flow of cash because Israel sucks vast sums of money out of the United States.
Oh, yes.
Okay. Meanwhile, you have other countries like Saudi Arabia
Mhm.
who put a lot of money into the United States, and
Mhm.
that kind of cash flow buys with it a certain amount of political influence.
Mhm.
So Israel's geopolitical goal here right now is to be able to go on sucking money out of the United States of America
Mhm.
while denying other countries any political benefit from money they're bringing into our investment system.
Yeah.
And that's a large part of the hostility out there because Israel doesn't want to stop sucking money out of the United States of America.
Mhm.
They think they have a divine right to our wealth. In fact, it's actually part of their religion. God has exposed the wealth of the Gentiles to you. And that's why they keep causing trouble for everybody, so that the United States government will go to Saudi Arabia and say, well, yes, you're being very good to our banking and economic systems here, but your human rights violations aren't so good. And if you want to talk about human rights violations, take a look at what's going on in Palestine.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Speaking of Saudi Arabia,
Yeah.
there is another article that I posted from antiwar.com, another very responsible blog. And the title of this article is America's Saudi Partnership is Now Killing Americans. Part of the assistance that the U.S. has given to the Saudi coalition over the last 5 years has been the training of their pilots. This was done ostensibly to improve pilots' targeting. But in practice, what it's done, Mike, has put a U.S. stamp of approval on a bombing campaign that has killed thousands of civilians through indiscriminate attacks on villages, cities, hospitals, schools in that devastated country. And now it has turned out that the training program also exposed the U.S. to infiltration by a terrorist who somehow managed to become an officer in the Royal Saudi Air Force. Now, if the Saudis vet their own pilots this badly and allow someone in league with an Al-Qaeda affiliate to serve in their military, what possible value can they have as a security partner? This is about the Orlando, the guy who
Yes.
was self-radicalized.
Yes.
I'd like your thoughts on that, Mike.
Well, it all
please.
depends on who you consider to be an Al-Qaeda affiliate, because
Yeah.
when you realize that Al-Qaeda was a manufactured group by U.S. intelligence to
Mhm.
support the war agenda,
Yeah.
well then, yeah, of course, anybody working for Saudi Arabia is working for an Al-Qaeda affiliate. You know, you got to be very, very careful who you think your enemies are,
Yes.
and not let anybody else tell you who's your friend or enemy.
Yeah. And we provided the Saudi coalition with weapons to which the Saudi coalition is using to kill civilians and selling them weapons that they hand off to terrorists and other criminals. Mike, with frenemies like this, who needs enemies? I mean, I'm sorry. Apparently, Saudi coalition forces have not only made tacit alliances with local Al-Qaeda members, but have also recruited and armed them as well. Oh, none of this has been kept a secret, and this was reported in July of 2015. And in the meanwhile, Saudi-backed militias are spearheading the efforts to roll back Houthi gains and reinstate the government that the rebels drove into exile in neighboring Yemen. But they have turned to Yemen-based Al-Qaeda of the American Peninsula, or AQAP.
The Arabian Peninsula.
Arabian Peninsula, excuse me, according to local residents and senior Western diplomats. Now, this puts the U.S. allied Gulf Kingdom on the same side as one of the world's most notorious extremist groups, which the United States set up.
wars have strange bedfellows.
Oh, yeah, yeah. And there have been reports about Saudi cooperation with local Al Qaeda members since the earliest months of the war, but this has changed nothing in U.S. policy. And Washington is ignoring this. Mike, why? It makes no sense to me.
Because, again, Al Qaeda is actually a creation of U.S. intelligence.
Okay, all righty. And it is taken for granted that opposing so-called Iranian expansionism is supposed to be more of a threat than what's happening with the Saudi leadership.
Or Israel expansionism.
Yeah, yeah. And in the U.S., particularly the U.S. government.
Okay,
It's time.
we got to take a break. Back for the last segment of our show after these two days.
Tired of being lied to by mass media? It's growing more and more apparent today that news is received less and less through standard media outlets. Even with a growing audience every day, RBN is beginning to direct more efforts into social media. Social media and the use of the internet is fast becoming the primary source of people for news, regardless of demographic. RBN has set out to provide some of the best news on the internet through republicbroadcasting.org, and also has begun to use the tools to our advantage by way of social media. Republic Broadcasting is now operating a Facebook page to function as yet another avenue to have our collective voice reach new audiences across not only America, but across the globe as well. The Facebook page features not only news, but also an RBN player to listen to our broadcast. Get involved by visiting facebook.com/Republic Broadcasting and liking our page and share it with your friends and family, because you can handle the truth.
Extend your life with Extendovite.
After about a month of Extendovite, I don't know what it is about the circulation factor. I was able to increase the weight, increase the amount of sets I could do. It has to do with the oxygen getting to the blood. You should market this as an athletic performance. And I don't change anything about my diet or anything. I just thought, what the hell is in this stuff? This is amazing. Bilberry extract is got something called resveratrol in it, which is the same stuff that you get from red wine. It's also good for eyesight. And I was reading that the Royal Air Force during World War II would give their pilots bilberry jam so they could have better night vision stuff. This is amazing.
To order, call 1-877-928-8822. That's 1-877-928-8822. Or visit our website at heartdrop.com.
Extend your life with Extendovite.
Is the Second Amendment your line in the sand? Is the United States Constitution important to you? Are you worried about gun confiscation? You need to join us for free at gunconfiscation.com. At gunconfiscation.com, you will meet like-minded patriots, get the latest Second Amendment news, and find anything you need to prepare for gun confiscation. Visit gunconfiscation.com today. That's gunconfiscation.com. Which side are you on?
Talk Right, the conservative app offered by TalkStream Live that caters exclusively to the conservative talk radio community. Here you'll see only talk shows and podcasts from the conservative right, all the big broadcast names and online digital shows in one place. Talk Right makes it easy to find all your favorite conservative talkers with all the upscale features you come to expect from TalkStream Live. Keep up with the fast-paced political world. Download Talk Right today from Google Play or the App Store.
What this country is coming to, I sure would like to know. If they don't do something by and by, the rich will live and the poor will die. Doggone, I mean the panic is on. Can't get no way, can't draw no pay.
Welcome back to our show. Last segment on this Powhana Friday. And to repeat the announcement one more time, Claire and I are taking a 2-week vacation away from RBN Radio. We need to work on some other stuff. And we'll return to the air on June 15th. Meanwhile, our hardworking and dedicated crew are arranging for guest hosts, so you won't have to listen to hopefully any rebroadcasts, because we know how boring and dull those can be. And of course, as we mentioned before, Ralph Winterroad will be at the microphone on Monday. Ryan Dawson is going to be taking the Friday shows, and Steve Elkins and David Grant and parties yet to be named will be taking up the ones and fill in there. So, and it's not that we don't love you all. It's just that everybody needs a rest once in a while. This is not a sprint. It's a marathon. And I'm marathoned out right now. Meanwhile, of course, one thing I'm definitely going to be doing tomorrow at 3:22 p.m. Eastern Time is watching the launch. They're going to try a second attempt to get these two astronauts into orbit on board the Dragon space capsule and the Falcon 9 rocket. And I certainly wish them luck. We need something good to happen. We need something we can feel proud about as a nation again. And I remember back in the 1960s during the space race, when it was Mercury and Gemini and, you know, Russia, the Soviet Union rather, and the United States one-upping each other in space. You know, one does a spacewalk, the other one does a spacewalk. The only one that we never really caught up with until the space shuttle program was women in space, because the Soviet Union put up Valentina Tereshkova,
yes,
who then promptly married another cosmonaut and produced little Cosmos. And we didn't fly a woman in space until the space shuttle.
Yeah.
Now, Elon Musk is saying, speaking of that, that NASA's plan is to work toward a manned mission to Mars, and SpaceX is going to work toward reestablishing traffic to the moon, hopefully inexpensively. And they intend to put a woman on the moon as well. So maybe they could send all of them. Okay. Bad idea. About our mother-in-law. Okay. Do you have one more quick story?
I'd like to finish up with this thing about Saudi Arabia.
Please do.
I would like the U.S. government to see the Saudi government as it really is, self-serving, self-aggrandizing, with absolutely no care about its citizens and its subjects whatsoever. And we don't need these kinds of friends in the international community.
No,
we really don't. And I would be very surprised if there were not war crimes charges brought against the United States for what we have assisted the Saudis doing.
Only if we lose the war.
Yeah, yeah,
You know, only the losers get charged with war crimes.
yes.
Remember, treason doth never prosper?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, definitely.
None dare call it treason.
Right. But I'm hopeful that we have some adults in the room who are going to sit President Trump down and say, we can't do this anymore.
Okay, well, that's it for our show today. And we're entering vacation mode here in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And stay tuned for John Stead-Miller. I'm sure he's got lots of interesting things to share with you. We'll be back on June 15th. Have a good 2 weeks off. And aloha, America.